Right.
Because at the end of the day, I want students to be able to learn, not have to do 5 steps to be able to regulate themselves. Just put the band on the bottom of the desk, let them kick the quiet band, and focus on the teacher.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Journey to Impact, where we talk to entrepreneurs and organizations who are creating positive impact around the world. And today, my guest is a friend and colleague, because we work together sometimes, Valerie from Pinch Point Consulting. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Janet.
Thanks for being on the podcast.
Absolutely.
This is going to be so fun. So, why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about Pinch Point Consulting and what it is you're doing now to create impact?
Yeah, so Pinch Point Consulting is it's my company where we work with families who are trying to navigate education, usually
Mhm.
special education. It can be 504s as well, or if they just know something's going on and they need some help from an expert. So I have introductory meetings and then I work with families. They hire me to help navigate them through the schooling process for their child. Something's happening. That's why I called it Pinch Point. Like something's happening right now and we've got to fix it right now. It's
Yeah.
hopefully not a forever thing. And
Right.
that's what's been happening. I also work with companies who have wellness programs and they want someone to come in and teach the parents how to navigate school. So just kind of like a 1 hour overview, which I think is awesome. And then I also have a blog where it just has a lot of information for families so that they can kind of find their information on their own. Same with social media. I have a TikTok that's
She
doing
has a
pretty well.
really good tip.
Just a lot of good information. And then I also am working with some other advocates right now, and we've started a course to just help families learn how to advocate for themselves
Oh my
because
gosh.
we like 80% of it we think you can do on your own. There's always going to be a little piece where you might need an expert, but for most families, I think if they just are given the tools, they can do it. And that's really what I wanted when I started Pinch Point was to make families feel empowered to say like I do know my child best. I am their best advocate and I
Mhm.
have the knowledge I need to be able to do that.
That's awesome. So, one reason we kind of connected and we still talk a lot today is I've had kids that are in that system and we need help navigating the system. Even though I'm an educator, my wife is an educator, it can get tricky, right?
Absolutely, when it's your own child,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, fair.
I have advocate friends who hire advocates. Because they want to be able to focus on their child if it's to that level, right? Most of us can go in and do it on our own, but we bounce ideas off each other, we help each other. I think having input from someone else, whether or not they're an advocate, can go a long way for families to know what they need to say to the school.
Hmm. Well, that's awesome. So, if you're kind of just starting out, but you've got a lot of cool things going on, and you got to go check her TikTok. We'll have that information in the description so you can all check it out. But that's amazing. So, back up for us.
Okay.
How did you end up here? What got you involved with education? Let's start there. What got you involved in education? How did you
Yeah.
start that journey?
So when I was in high school, I was a swim instructor and lifeguard, and I really liked teaching swim lessons. I thought it was so fun to see a child who was too scared to even get in the water to jumping off the diving board and how excited their families were. And I was, 16, so I didn't understand the gravity of it at 16. And then after college, I worked in water therapeutics. So children with cerebral palsy, autism,
Okay.
different disabilities that maybe didn't have a specific name, Down syndrome. And I
Mm,
also worked with adults who had arthritis, or I also worked with stroke recovery patients.
okay.
So I saw the benefit of implementing a very systematized approach to helping people through whatever they were going through right then in water, which was fabulous. But it turns out it doesn't pay enough to live. And so, yeah. So,
Bummer.
so
Should.
then it should. It was really great. So then I went into education and specifically special education. One of the first people I met said, "Well, if you like that, you might like special education."
Hmm.
And I wasn't familiar with it. That hadn't been my journey in school. Although looking back,
We all probably extra help and support, I will say, yes.
absolutely. So, I was able to get in California, it's called a mild moderate credential. And so I worked primarily with students with specific learning disabilities, dyslexia, ADHD, anxiety. And then I went on to get my master's to focus on older students who had trouble reading because I always worked with middle school and high school students. Little ones are adorable. They're so cute. They're just teachers find their niche and stay there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So that was fabulous and wonderful. And then I went into administration for a little bit.
Was that fabulous and wonderful?
Not as much, but more because I had children of my own at that point, and it
Right.
was hard to give enough time to the job. And I'm one of those big, like, I'm going to give it my all.
Oh yeah,
And so it
yeah.
was
That's why we
hard.
get along.
Yeah, it was hard to balance that, but also being present for my own children. And so I was able to take a step back and kind of pivot into doing this new organization, which is great.
That is great. So it sounds like when you were first starting out, you saw those either those ahas or those pinch points
Yeah.
that people couldn't get past, and
Yes.
when you got past them, that really brought you a lot of joy. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's a pretty
Absolutely.
cool thing. I had similar experiences, not the same, but I taught physics, so everybody loves physics. Few people do, not very
It's
many.
not me.
No, 9 out of 10 go, "Oh, that's nice." But I got my charge when they came in and said, "I hate physics. What a terrible I hate this class." And then in the middle, some one day you just see this,
Yes.
"Oh." And then by the end, a few of them would be like, "I'm so glad I took this class. I really appreciate things differently, and I
Yeah.
understand, and I can do physics." So I get the whole like boom moment,
Yes, it's
right?
amazing, and you can see it on students' faces. I'm sure
Yes,
you didn't have to have the student come tell you that, you knew because you
I knew.
saw it,
Yeah.
and that was the same for me with reading, was when something unlocked or they realized like, "Oh, this is why my teacher is so wild about books. This is interesting." Now granted,
Mhm.
a lot of the books I loved are now, some of the most banned books in America. But
Wow.
they weren't banned at the school districts I taught at, they were
Right.
on our list,
Right.
and I just thought it was great to give them it doesn't have to be through a movie, it doesn't have to be through a YouTube video.
Right.
You can be excited about a book.
That
So,
is so cool.
yeah.
All right. So what made you go into administration? I know that's a pathway kind of expected for a lot of teachers.
Yeah.
Um, was there something about that you thought you could create more impact or do something different?
Yes, I definitely thought I would have the ability to have a wider reach by doing
Okay. Yep.
administration.
Yep. 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 Yep.
And I think at the first I did two different administrative jobs.
Okay.
One was a vice principal at a really large junior high, and then one was a district administrator for special education. The district administrator for special education was much more my wheelhouse
Hmm.
because again, we all have our niches in any job, and mine was not everyone. Mine was a specific population.
Right.
And also being able to learn from the people who do that job because even though I was in special education for 15 years,
Hmm.
I was in one little chunk of it. There's a whole big spectrum of special education. So when I was a vice principal, I did a little bit of special education, but a lot of just work. Versus when I got to be a special education administrator, I got to learn a lot more, which I'm a lifelong learner. I think it's why I really like being a business owner because you get to learn so much every day. It's why I like
Hmm.
working with you. And
That's what I like to.
yeah, and so I think as a special education administrator, I had never worked with children who are medically fragile. That was
Mhm.
not my credentialing area.
Okay.
I learned that there are children who go on a bus with a nurse. I didn't know that before, and we had to write that into the IEP.
Mm.
I learned so much more about autism and how we can effectively have inclusion programs for students with autism, not just say it's inclusion, but a very systematized approach.
Right.
I learned a lot more about how to safely help students who were having major behavioral issues at school.
Okay.
That wasn't my student population. So I think I had more impact on the special education realm and I liked it and I had more impact with my teams. One great example was you can bill Medi-Cal for services that are done in schools.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
No.
And so when I started, somebody called me and I said, I don't understand this. And so she came out and explained it. So I talked to my teams and said, this is what I need you to do. Is that even possible? And they said, yes, but it's a lot of time for us. And then that's going to be more for us to do. And these are service providers. They're already so overwhelmed with their caseloads.
Right.
So I called the nice lady back and said, what can we do? And she said, well, our team can do that. And so their team did it. And we went from earning 40,000 a year on a very specialized budget that no one in the district could touch except a group of people who agreed to it being touched to over 100,000 a year,
Oh my gosh.
which meant the first year our occupational
Wow.
therapist put in like a $20,000 order for the district so that all of these students who normally weren't able to access, the bands at the bottom of the chair or safe ways to regulate in the classroom then had it. So a lot of behavioral stuff started to disappear because we had what we needed. So that's the type of impact I like,
Right.
because at the end of the day, I want students to be able to learn, not have to do 5 steps to be able to regulate themselves. Just put the band on the bottom of the desk, let them kick the quiet band, and focus on the teacher.
That's amazing.
So that was pretty exciting.
That's some pretty serious impacts. 40,000 to
Yeah,
100,000.
it's great.
That's very cool. Very cool. So, what made you decide to go into business on your own?
Yeah.
And are you still feeding that boom,
Yes.
the need for that boom?
Yes. So I think what made me do it is I'm a solo mom.
Okay.
So I have 3 children
Okay.
and they'll have different needs. And I think that's the reality. Like when I became a parent, I thought it would be like a TV show. It's not. It's my children are their own people.
Yes. Yes, they are.
So I realized again, wanting to give everything to a job, I couldn't with 3 children on my own.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, I really know this, and I'm passionate about teaching parents and caregivers. One of a lot of feedback I got as a teacher and an administrator was, you're telling parents a little more than maybe we need to. Why are you giving them all this information? And I think it was just because people didn't understand that wasn't going to invite further requests. I think people thought it meant parents are going to ask for the moon, and it didn't. It just meant parents understood
Right.
and they felt heard.
Yeah.
So, and that was great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's not everybody's attitude, I don't feel.
right. And every administrator who said to me, I think you were doing too much, once they saw the purpose behind it, they all were like, okay, I gotcha. Thank you so much.
Oh.
Nobody stayed there. But being able to have my own business where I'm creating my own hours, I can take my children to their appointments. Some of my students, it feels like it sometimes. Some of my own children did some online learning last year and just had some different needs. And so it gave me the latitude to do that. But it was also really great to work with families and have them at the end say like, wow, I couldn't have done this without you. And then them saying, but I'm looking forward to trying it next time. And
Wow.
so them gaining the skills that they needed to be able to do it on their own has been really great. And then honestly, TikTok, as much as sometimes it's frustrating and hard, it has been fabulous. I get private messages sometimes where people say, because of your TikTok, I went to my college. And thank you, Janet, because you taught me what people need to do at college.
Mhm.
And I got a private message. Somebody said that she went in and told them like she didn't have everything up to date, but she knew she had needs and they are working with her. They're going to be doing some additional testing, but they're giving her accommodations in the interim. And she's so excited because she feels like she can access it and not feel beaten down. And
That's
so
amazing.
that's been really, really great. So
Yeah.
even though not everybody needs to hire me, there's people benefiting from the knowledge we're putting out there. And that's really what I wanted, was parents to feel empowered.
Wow, that's incredible. I agree with you. I'm kind of I feel like I'm shifting my business model a little too to set digital backbone up for companies and then or entrepreneurs and
That's
then
good because it's hard.
it is. That's well like you know what you know. I don't know all the stuff you know, and I don't want to know it all, but I'm happy to set up the digital backbone for a
Yes.
business
Yes.
because I know that. And then
Yes.
you can worry about
The knowledge part.
the knowledge part.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. But one thing I am learning is I think I want to shift to where I can set it all up and get it rolling and then teach people to keep it rolling and not
Yes.
have them have to depend on me and
Yes.
pay me forever. I mean, yeah, that would be great. But I that's not who I am. And
Yeah.
not like you're saying. You could hold back knowledge and make them dependent on you. And that's kind of gross,
It
in my
is.
opinion. I know that's a business
Yeah.
model, but I want to empower people
Absolutely.
and then say go and
Yes.
if they need to come back for assistance, that's great. But
Absolutely.
but I like that.
They did have one family come back. They did a bunch on their own, and
Yeah.
then they said, "Hey, we want to do a quick document review with you. We want you to look it all over." So it wasn't the same price. I knew all their info,
Mhm.
just read it over, had a meeting with them, talked about a few things that they could try for next time,
Yeah.
and everybody walked away feeling great. So
Oh wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the model I like as well. So agreed. Agreed. All right. So you've done this fairly recently.
Yes.
So somebody is probably out there saying, well, I want to start a business, but I'm so scared and I don't know what to do. Um, what is some advice you would give somebody thinking about taking all of that knowledge. So you don't sell a product
No, I
necessarily.
don't.
You sell your knowledge.
Yep.
So what do you recommend somebody getting started with that type of business? Is there don't do this, but definitely
Yeah.
do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Definitely
advice.
made a few mistakes, which is part for the course,
Yeah,
right?
that's yep.
Yeah, I think the best thing I did was find people like you
Mm.
who were not just a business coach, but somebody who I knew and who knew me enough to push me. And you're very respectful with pushing, but I think some of us need that. Maybe if you're a person who doesn't need that, that wouldn't be your business coach model.
Mhm.
And you're not pushy, but just somebody who can say like, "Hey, you said you were going to do X and Y. Were you able to do X and Y? Well, you didn't do Y. Let's sit here. We got 5 minutes. Let's
Let's
see if
do
we can
why.
get started
Yeah.
on Y." Which is funny because that's literally what I used to do for students, but it's hard to do for myself.
I agree. Same.
Yeah.
Samesies.
So it's nice to have somebody be a cheerleader. At one point, I literally had hired someone on Fiverr to check in with me once a day to just say, "You said you were going to do this. Did you do it?" And it was super inexpensive, but that's what I needed at that point.
Right.
I think finding you have to
It's
get,
accountability. We're talking about
yeah,
accountability here.
yep,
I
owning,
agree. Starting a new business, figure out an accountability method,
yep,
even if it's just telling
someone,
a partner,
right,
a friend, on a regular basis,
yep,
here's what I'm doing, and say, if I don't tell you anything in a month or two,
check
you
in.
check in with me. Okay.
Yep,
Yep. All right.
absolutely.
Accountability. Go ahead.
And then finding some people. So I'm really interested in blogging. I think blogging is really fun. I think it's a great way for people to get
Yep.
information. So
Absolutely.
I really found somebody who I thought would be good to help me learn how to do that. And it was expensive. It was an investment, but I am pretty proud of what I'm putting out right now.
Wow.
So I think that's been really good. I think getting feedback on things, like asking for people as sensitive as it can be, and I think some of us have a bit of like rejection sensitivity, but I think it's nice to get feedback from kind people. And then finding other people who are either also entrepreneurs or
Mhm.
entrepreneurs in what you do. There's enough room at the table for everyone. So,
It's not. It doesn't have to be a competition.
right. So
Yeah.
initially I was reaching out to advocates who I found through a professional organization I was great, but they weren't exactly who I needed to talk to. And then a couple advocates reached out to me on TikTok, and then that's kind of how we formed a little group where we're all on a group
Ah,
chat. But
community.
also,
Community.
yes,
Community.
because it's very isolating to be an entrepreneur by yourself.
So this is a topic in itself, and at some point we could talk about it. But I agree with you. So I think we've mentioned on this podcast Elevate. It's a
Yes,
women's business organization in Wyoming, Ohio. So if you're near Cincinnati, come check it out. Um, if you check out the podcast I did with Lindsay Bonadonna, she's the one that got that
amazing.
started. Yes, but that has been life changing for
Yes,
me, or business changing at
yes.
both probably. um, to have that community. But you can also do it online, right? You can
Mhm.
create community online. But if you're feeling like I got to do this alone and I
No,
can't ask for help because I'm a solopreneur,
no.
yep, don't do it.
No.
Don't do
And
it.
and I think also there's been a few different things I've invested in that weren't the right match for me, just like with my values or how I am. And being able to say like, that's not for me. I know I paid money for it, but I'm just going to put it to the side because I need to focus on what's working and what is helping. And that's been helpful as well. Just having a
Mm,
little bit of grace for yourself. And I don't, it's no different than when you buy a great outfit and you're like, I'm totally going to wear it and I love it. And then you get home and you're like, this is not me. What was I thinking?
yeah,
It's outside
that's
the
a great
return. Yeah,
analogy.
it's outside the return window. I can't take it back. And that's okay. So I think having grace for when we make mistakes. I think the other great thing about what I've learned in this year is business acumen. So
Mm,
luckily, so I left education. I did something different for 4 years and I learned a lot more about business, like SOPs. They don't have standard operating procedures in education. They just kind of like
mm,
go do your thing.
mm.
And so I learned a lot about that, creating flows, creating like, finding what is the right business software to use for billing and contracts and all that
Yep.
stuff. So that's been really good. It takes time to learn it. So being forgiving of yourself of
More
like,
grace.
yeah, it's gonna take me a couple days to get this up and running, but once it is,
Days or
it's up and
months.
running. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I chose the like plug and play.
All right, there you go. There you go.
But also so all of that, and then I think just knowing that if you need to take some downtime, it's okay. Versus like at a job, you can't do
Mm,
that.
yep.
But the amount of creativity that's required when you're a business owner, I wasn't anticipating that.
Right. I agree with that. There, you've said some really great things here. So well, I'm going to circle back to one thing, but
Okay.
I think this is a good point about creativity and you're producing. So you're producing, you're taking your knowledge and you're packaging
Yes, I
it.
was gonna say you have to package it prettily.
You have to package it right. It's create an offer. Um, Alex Hermosi's $100 million offer book is a really great roadmap to do that if you haven't read that, but I'll put the link below. But I mean, just it seems so easy, right? You can walk in a classroom or do a workshop and blah 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 blah
It's
all day
great.
long.
So
But to
easy.
package that and explain that somebody needs this or that is tricky. And I think it takes for me, you have kids, I have kids, other responsibilities. So if you don't get that block time, if I don't get that block time of
Yes.
an hour or two to really
Yes.
dig into
It's
that
hard.
piece, it's really hard. So don't be afraid to block. And I've talked to other entrepreneurs with the same issue.
Yep.
Block off 2 hours, put it out, put your family calendar out there and say, you see that 2 hours? It says, I'm working. I'm working. Don't bother me
Mhm.
because I'm working. Because it's really hard to stop and start that creative process.
Absolutely. Well, what's worked really well for me is using co-working spaces. And
Mm,
yes, it's an expense, but I think the payoff, you can't quantify it. So I
mm.
did there's a thing here in Cincinnati that's actually all over the country. I just canceled it because I wasn't using it as much as I wanted to. It's called Cohatch,
Oh, yeah.
but it's
Go
a
ahead. Yep.
beautiful place you can go. They have, like, you don't have to bring your water. They have everything
What?
there for you.
Oh, I
You
didn't know
just go
that.
in and sit down. And so I would go like on a Saturday afternoon for 2 hours.
Oh,
Like, it was
okay.
great. My kids were all fine. They were all doing something. And I got out of the house because there's something magical about leaving the
Yes,
house
ma'am.
and you can work. We have a place here in Wyoming that we can
Mhm.
use. It's like $10 for half a day. But the amount of work I can get done, it's worth it
So worth it. And
versus at home when they're
yeah.
like, I'm kind of hungry. Well, you're old enough to know how to cook, but you're here. So I think being, like you said, blocking it out and taking care of that time just as much as you would if you went to a 9 to 5. I think there's
Mhm.
a mindset shift that has to happen. This isn't a cute side hustle. This is how you're earning an income. So what are you
Yeah.
doing to protect it? Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So I want to circle back to you because you talked about learning and purchasing and learning.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
So I think we all see on all social media channels like this coach, this ad, that ad. And so at the beginning, I purchased something that was for social media when I was just getting started. And this person's huge on social media. She's huge. She's not my jam. The way she does thing, it's not authentic to me at all.
Okay.
And when I would try to do things the way she said to, my views would tank. It was really bad. So I did work with somebody that I'd met in that group,
Hmm.
and she helped me a lot with kind of the next phase of how I do my social media. That was worth it.
Okay.
But, and then somebody else in the group helped me out with how to price things because I'm a service provider,
Right.
like you
It's
talked
hard.
about.
Yep.
I don't
I
necessarily
know.
have like a product. So that was helpful. But just this week, I was like, this is not for me. And I'm going to put that to the side and not use it. And that's okay.
Mm.
But I think I've gotten better at finding, like like I was saying, this blog. I'm really passionate about it. I want parents to have something they can look back to. Not everybody learns by watching and listening. That's an auditory learner, and not
Yeah.
everybody's audit. And even when you put the captions on, it's fast, it's a lot of information, and not everybody can take it in that way.
Right.
So, a blog, I can give you a checklist, I can give you how to do a meeting, I can give you all of that. And so I do. And so,
That's awesome.
having that and learning from somebody who knows what they're doing. So, I've gotten better. When I see somebody who says they can do X and Y, I vet them. I go check out what they have.
Uh
Do
huh.
I like what they have? Does that align with who I am? That's why there's so many, right? Find one that aligns with you.
Yep.
And then you have to actually use it. So you can't just buy it and be like, well, I bought it. Like, you have to go through it. So I've also learned, like, I can't do super long ones. It needs to be pretty short. And then I need to be it needs to tell me, like, do this now, try it.
There. Don't mean to interrupt, but could you do me a big favor and rate and review? Follow or subscribe, depending upon the platform you are listening to or watching this podcast on. It really helps us out so that we can continue to create great impact for you as well as other people. We want to magnify your impact with this podcast. So let me know if you want to be on the podcast. If you have a great story, get in touch with us and we'll see if we can have you on. Back to the podcast.
I think that probably works for me because when I was a teacher, that's what I would do, right? You have your launch that you give to students, 12 to 20 minutes, and then they're doing something. And so it's how I like to
Uh,
teach, it's how I like to learn.
yeah,
So this one, I think we were just noticing we're in one of the same courses, and this gal, has like,
Jenna
okay,
Kuchar will say it. It's
she's
Jenna
really
Kuchar.
good. Look something up. And I was just telling Janet this morning, I'm a very inclusive person from Northern California, and I use the word caregiver a lot
Mhm.
because people are caregivers. Not everyone has the role of a parent, but it doesn't mean you're not the caregiver for that child. I've worked with families who it's the aunt or it's
Right.
a step
Or the
parent.
bonus mom.
Yeah, it's somebody else
Yep.
who doesn't necessarily use the term parent.
Right.
And so I wanted to be inclusive, and I'm learning that's beautiful and lovely. And I can use that in my content. But when
Okay.
I'm making a pin, I need to say parent because people aren't going to find the
They're not
resource
going to search.
caregiver.
Yeah.
They're going to search that for if you're taking care of
Yeah.
an ailing parent. So that's the kind of things that I think I have, like you said, I have the knowledge, but then how do you package it, which you've said, so that you can have the impact you want to have for
Right.
families. So
Right. And so we were just talking about paying for classes. So I also paid for that class and I'm about, I don't know, a third or my problem is we get to the due part and I'm
I do
like,
it.
oh, I don't have time right now. So then I stop.
Oh,
And now I'm stuck there because I still have not done it. But
yeah.
I do it slowly and I get it going slowly. So um but that is a thing. You have to set that time aside. So
Yes.
there's two investments you make with a class. Money,
Yes.
and you're saying you have spent some significant money
Yeah.
on courses, but what do they do for your business?
Oh, I think it's leapfrogged what I'm producing to have the impact. So my initial blog posts, I look back, I'm a little embarrassed. You can't find them because I've fixed them all. But they like 500 to 700 words,
Okay.
which for the topics I'm doing is not enough. 1,500 to 2,000 words is more appropriate. And so
Okay.
that's what I'm doing now. I was just kind of doing like a few paragraphs. Now I'm doing very short paragraphs with bullets or numbered or, here's a download you can get for free um, with images, like reasons to stay on that post. And then I'm now linking to other posts that I have because I have more. So making sure that this is a nice cohesive package for a
Mm,
mom or a dad or a caregiver who has 5 minutes to read something because they keep hearing this from the school and they need to learn about it now. It's
yes.
what they need right now.
Love it.
And so because I want them to have that impact, that ability to say, like, I've got it, now I can go in and have a conversation.
I love that.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to invest in yourself
I would
to
agree.
learn these things rather than because you probably saved yourself 3 or 4 years of
Absolutely.
fumbling.
Absolutely.
No offense.
Absolutely.
Same here.
Yeah.
To leapfrog it. I like that term. Leapfrog ahead and get that taken care of. And now I'm assuming your readership is going up
Yes.
and people are actually finding
Yeah.
value. So that's great. So the value was there, it just wasn't packaged the way it should have been.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I know you're a good writer, you have all kinds of. I mean, you've written tons as an educator, but you haven't written tons of blogs.
No,
So
and it's such a different
it's a
way to
different
write
beast.
to make sure that people can get out of it what you're trying to give them. Yeah.
Excellent. So invest in yourself, pay for some courses. I think the other thing I heard you say is kind of look into the course and the instructor first, because if your values don't align,
It's not going to work.
it's not going to work.
No.
And then you will waste your money. I also find it challenging as an educator. I've paid for some less expensive classes that were just quick, maybe an hour, and I can't even stand it because they're not using educational principles to present the material. So I would love to go help them out with their presentation. But so that is, I find that a little bit of a barrier.
I would agree. I would agree. Well, and as much as I like to be able to just read something and do it, I'm starting to learn again with the isolation. I want a little video. Just give me a little bit and then I can do a lot on my own, but just a little bit helps. And I don't even need to see your face, even if it's just me listening, that's fine too.
That's cool.
But it really goes a long way in keeping my engagement for sure.
Yeah, definitely have to have that engagement factor. I agree with that. And I don't like the courses that fiddle fart around. Like
Oh, just tell me what I need to
just
do.
let's go.
Yep,
Let's go. So I agree with that. So invest in yourself. You also invest the time. So you have to give it some time.
absolutely.
But on the flip side, would you agree that you can't just keep learning? You have to do.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it sounds like all the courses you're finding the most value you learn, do, learn, do, learn, do.
And all of them emphasize it's better to be done than perfect. which I think is
Yes.
something that as a
Yes.
perfectionist I have a hard time with. But I've also learned if I want to be able to make this business work, I
Mhm.
have to put things out there. And then if it's not right, there's edit buttons. I can edit a blog post. I can take down a TikTok if I didn't like the way it actually was coming across, which I haven't had to do very often. I can take down an Instagram post. Like there's ways to fix it if you don't like it. And I think that's okay as well. Just
Yeah.
getting things out there because then that gives you the feedback so you can see like, oh, people like that or they don't like that. I did a blog post off the cuff that I thought nobody's going to care about and it got huge engagement. So now I'm able to break it down and say like,
Wow.
well, let me give you more. Or like some of my favorite TikTok videos aren't even really for my business. It just like resonated with people. And so then I'm like, oh, I need to do a little bit more so that that continues to draw people in so they can learn. Yeah.
I've had the same experience. I'll put a YouTube video out that I'm like, this is gonna stink. It's not. I was just going on, and what the heck? And it outperforms the other ones, or a TikTok,
Yeah.
or yeah, like you said, a blog post off the cuff, just because
Yeah.
something got me, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Argh." And then people like that. So don't be afraid to start messy and be messy.
Yes.
And some of the engagement you get, if you're a little messy, is nice because people then say, "Well, what about this?" And you didn't talk about this, and you've
Yes.
had that in
That has been some of the best. My favorite to this day, I think it will always
your
be my favorite, was people kept commenting that IEPs are gibberish. And I would say back, like, I understand why you think that way.
Mhm.
When I started, they were 4 or 5 pages long with goals. And now they're over 20 for the average IEP. And it's a lot. It's a lot for parents. I get it. But you know, if you just think about it, and I was breaking it down and thinking I was being so clear, and a teacher jumped in my comments and said, yeah, just say it in 3 parts. We're there now, where we want the student to be in a year, and how we're going to get there. I did a new blog. I did a new TikTok. I've done blog posts off of that. I've created resources for families off of that,
Wow.
all because one
One
teacher did
could
like a 2 sentence comment. And I think that's when you say like nothing about it was messy, but it could have been cleaner. And so somebody gave me the cleaner and then I was able to run with that.
That's amazing. That's so
Yeah.
cool. I love that. Well, do you have any last thoughts for our entrepreneurial friends out there? Stick with it.
Stick with it. I would say find there are things you'll have to pay for, but find free resources. So like you mentioned, Elevate, that's our local business organization here that helps other entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. And I think that's amazing. I think finding people that can support you that are in your same realm is
Mhm.
really helpful.
Mhm.
So in addition to the cost things, finding free things and having some kind of support system. And I would say your support system is probably going to be different than you think it's going to be. Like I thought it would be like some of my best friends, and no, they don't have any clue what I'm doing.
I agree with you.
I've met
Yeah.
so many great new friends by
Yes.
doing this, and they're true friends versus like when you have coworkers, they're your coworkers. You can be friendly, but they're your coworkers. This is very different. I know people's lives, they know my life. We laugh about things when we're not in front of a camera. I mean, it's been the I think the impact, the cool thing, because you're an impact person,
Yes, ma'am.
it's not just the impact we're doing for others. I think it's the impact that happens in our own lives as well.
Mm, wow. That was cool. That was super cool. All right. Can you look in that camera and tell everybody where they can find you on the internet?
Absolutely. So I am Valerie Grant at pitchpointconsulting.com. I have a website where you can see all of my social media links. It's pinchpointconsulting.com. I have a TikTok. My Instagram's a little low, but I think checking out the website is a good place to start to learn more about me and how I can help you and your family.
That is awesome. Well, I want to thank Valerie for
Thanks,
being on
Janet.
here. I got a lot of impact from you talking with me today. So I appreciate that. I always get impact talking to
Thank you, me.
I appreciate it. All right. So check out some of our other podcast guests. They can also give you information about how you can create impact. It's not as hard as you think. You can do this. Subscribe to the channel. And remember, without impact, it doesn't matter. See ya.